Welcome to SFL This Week, Season 24, Week 12, along with Mike St. Green. I'm Cameron Irvine, and we're ready to break down another great week of SFL action with two games left to go tonight. That is Vancouver taking on Mexico City, and Minnesota facing Arizona in two major games tonight. Mike, good evening, and the playoff picture has dramatically shifted. We'll get into that at the end of the show.
Yeah, the playoff picture has definitely shifted, Cameron. Some interesting matchups coming down the last few weeks of the season, including two huge matchups tonight, as you mentioned, and a couple of surprising results this weekend, and I'm pretty sure we're going to get into it as soon as we say our hellos and greetings to everyone and all that good stuff.
We have some teams officially eliminated: Pittsburgh, Indianapolis, Charleston, Chicago, Los Angeles, Oklahoma City, and Nashville. Do any of those, which one, I guess, maybe is the most surprising to you that we're here in Week 12 and the fork has been stuck?
I guess of those teams, Charleston to a certain extent. I think the consensus was that Charleston was probably going to take was going to keep the momentum that they had from last season going. They were starting a first-year starter at quarterback, but Amon Kopech has actually performed pretty well, all things considered. But probably Charleston of that group is probably the most surprising that they are already eliminated from contention.
Chicago got Mike O'Neill in the offseason. They got Baloo Scott back. They finally were going to have this run game, all this stuff, and then it just didn't work out. And sometimes that's the way it goes, right, Mike? I mean, there are just some seasons where you can tell sometimes in the first few weeks, I don't know if this is going to be our year. And that's what Chicago's season felt like this year.
Yeah, it was been a tough road pretty much from week one for Chicago. Somewhat surprising that at that win total, I don't know if I expected them to compete for any major playoff positioning or anything like that, but definitely that win total is surprising in their performance early on, not being able to get the running game going, and and the defense wasn't playing well early in the season, but these guys are going to look to bounce back next season. I'm pretty sure they already have the wheels turning to seeing how they can get back into contention season 25.
All the top teams do this time of year. There's no time like the present to recruit. And look, we'll get to the playoff picture and all those things coming up, but we got to give them their due. We got to start the show with Oklahoma City and Indianapolis, because that was the surprise of the week. Colin Pierce in the first quarter, shaking off a sack and hitting Christian Bacigalupi into the end zone for a score. That set the tone. 7-0 Oklahoma City. Then Ethan Flowers on his first pass of the day goes to Rob Hunt. He is almost gone, but chased down by Rahman Jr. First down and goal for Indianapolis. Hunt with the biggest play of the first half up to that point. Flowers against the blitz on 3rd and goal, can't get away, and Oklahoma City's defense gets a stop. Then Colin Pierce bouncing right back, finds Stephen McMichaels all the way down the field. That safety bit Mike and let him go. 14-3 Oklahoma City at that point. As McMichaels celebrates, Indianapolis would get back on track. Flowers, an out route to Rob Hunt. That's a score, 14-10. Then Flowers down 17-10, hits Reggio De Niro and ties the game at 17 down towards the end of the third quarter. And at this point, it felt like Indianapolis was going to run away with it. Big run there from Andrew Gibson.
Yeah, at this point of the game, Cameron is like, OKC put up a valiant fight, but, they were just going to come up short. But, these guys, they were dialed in on the offensive end of the field.
Instead, Tiberius Bovine gets a pancake down the field, and Bacigalupi scores again. That puts Oklahoma City up 24-20. Gibson's in the end zone. He had a 100-yard day, and that was his first touchdown of the season. 27-24 Indy. 7 minutes to go. Oklahoma City's backs are against the wall, and Colin Pierce finds Stephen McMichaels, who juggles his own catch and makes the play. Oklahoma City ties the game with a field goal. Then the biggest play of the game, they needed to get into range, and that little tiny juke from Frank Udon put them in field goal range for their non-contract kicker, Mike, from 44 yards away, what a play. What a kick.
Yeah, highly improbable kick from the non-contract kicker, but he came through in the clutch.
And then the Hail Mary, look, they had guys down there. I thought maybe off a deflection, wouldn't that have been something for Indianapolis to win that game? They were just a few yards out of range for their kicker, who is a contracted kicker but is still a very young player in the league, and they just were unable to pull it off. Look, Oklahoma City gets the win. Their first since returning from the SFL, since selling to Arizona, I believe back after season 12. So a huge win for the Renegades. Just your initial thoughts on their victory on the road.
Well, first of all, congratulations to Oklahoma City Renegades for, as you mentioned, with their first win since approximately season 12 or 13, I believe it was. But the thing is, Cam, these guys, they have some players, as Stephen McMichael, Colin Pierce. These guys have been around for a while. Tiberius Bovine was mentioned in this highlight as well. But they're still a little undermanned, but they have, over the past couple of weeks, they have started to compete a little better, and then compete, put together a good game plan. Probably some, the personnel that they do have progressed to a certain level, and then now you see some of the fruits of their labor, and they come away with a huge victory for them. And I'm pretty sure that locker room was excited about that win last night.
I talked to a very familiar offensive coordinator after the game, Michael Irvine, and he said, look, because remember, free safety Brady Clark was inactive for this game. So an already thin defense was down. He said that he moved corners to free safeties. He said at some points he had linebackers playing deep in coverage because the linebackers were his best coverage players, better than the non-contracted defensive backs. So they were moving all sorts of pieces around on both sides of the ball to make it happen, and they were able to get that win. Look, some games it feels like a team lost. Other games it feels like a team won. It felt like Oklahoma City really just went out and won this game. They had no turnovers. They fumbled twice. They recovered both. It just felt like they had everything going their way in this game, and they needed it to get this win. Otherwise, they're 0-9, and Indianapolis takes care of business.
Yeah, the OKC definitely won this game, Cam. Indianapolis, they played well. They didn't play bad. The offense put up points, and as you mentioned, the shorthanded defense on the Renegade side, they were piecing things together, and Indianapolis took advantage of a lot of those things. But every time that Indianapolis would put points on the board, OKC would answer, and they definitely had a great game plan and executed it and came away with the W.
So from the bottom of the standings to the top of the standings, let's go to Albuquerque, where the Albuquerque Atoms were taking on the Chicago Warriors. And when you're playing the team at the top of the standings, you can't do things like this. Fumble on the kickoff return, recovered by Albuquerque. At this point, it was a scoreless game, and Albuquerque had no momentum. But Cyrus Jive and the offense get an opportunity. They find Kyle Finnemore, their red zone threat, going on a drag across the field and getting into the end zone for the score. 7-0. Now 10-0 in the red zone. Chicago with 4:40 to go in the first half. Type attack finds Dean Jackson, the fullback, who went on a go route out of the backfield. Clever play, and they make that happen. 10-7. This would tie the game. Can't do that against a team at the top of the standings either. Missed the field goal. Then a minute and a half later on the ensuing drive, Cyrus Jive finds his open receiver, and that's a 10-point swing, Mike, and they're up by 10. Just can't happen.
It can happen, Cameron. Finnemore, I thought he had dropped the ball a little early on that earlier touchdown, but Kate Marion, she's been a beast all season long, and she continues with a huge touchdown right there.
End of the third quarter, Albuquerque's up 20-7, and Chicago fumbles the football. I mean, you just can't have this happen, in a legit fumble at that. 23-7, 6:40 to go in the fourth quarter. And finally, Chicago's defense steps up. They had a problem holding on to interceptions all day. They give their offense a chance with 6.5 to go in the ball game. Just still a 2-score game. Patak off his back foot. One of the best throws you'll see all season to Tita Queen, who had an excellent game. But it was too little too late. 23-14 is your final. Albuquerque gets the win. They improve to 8-2, and Chicago unfortunately falls to 2-8. Another team that's eliminated that has been playing better as of late, but the Atoms still a perfect 12-0 at home in their SFL history, and they will almost certainly have a home playoff game in a few weeks. I say almost certainly because even though they're 8-2, it's still not a done deal. There's a lot of teams at the top of the standings that are gunning for them, and they have a difficult last 2 games.
Yeah, this team, they are virtually unbeatable at home. But Chicago, they had an opportunity to pull the upset here, Cam, but a couple of fumbles, a couple of missed field goals. As you mentioned, you cannot do that against a team of this caliber, and especially at home. And that's what recipe for upsets are made of, not turning the ball over and taking advantage of every situation. And even with all that being said, once Cyrus Jive kind of struggled in the middle of this ball game, we saw the interception there late, and it kind of seemed like Chicago still would have opportunity, but just not enough time to pull it off. But playing great as going down the stretch, they have some things to build on for next season.
Albuquerque's last 2 games at Mexico City, at Fort Worth. You were the most familiar with the South. What do you think happens to Albuquerque down the stretch? Where do they end up in the playoffs? Do they get a bye? Do they get a home playoff game? What happens to the Adams? Because right now, Fort Worth is last place in the division, and they can still win it at 6-4, just 2 games back with them because they still play them on the schedule.
Well, I think it's going to depend on where those games are. I don't know if you have that right in front of you, but
they're both on the road, at Mexico City, at Fort Worth.
Well, that's going to be tough for Albuquerque, and it's going to be interesting to see. But we have a lot of potential playoff teams playing one another down the stretch. Houston, they have Bossier City in that South Division in the last game of the season. A huge matchup Friday, Houston and Denver. So we're going to see a playoff preview, a potential playoff preview these last few weeks, man. It's going to be interesting to see. But I don't know how much I trust Albuquerque on the road, but they're definitely going to pull off one of those wins, I believe, Cam, in order to secure a bye.
Literally anyone in the South could win the South. And look, Chicago didn't have the season they wanted, but we'll give them their due. Let's check in with Chicago to see how they're doing. Ashley Jackson is back, and she spoke with DJ Kilgannon and Meliodas Manning on PGI. So let's take a listen.
Welcome back to PGI. It has been a while. I'm so glad to be back with a couple of great friends of mine, Mr. DJ.
You can get it. Yep.
There you go. That's okay. See, we had this problem before, so we're working it out. Y'all know me in names. And then we have Mr. Meliodas Manning, cornerback.
Perfect.
From Chicago. We practiced that.
Yes.
But Chicago Warrior members coming off a tough loss to the Albuquerque Adams, who I believe are number 1 in the standings right now. They are a wrecking ball, man. But I will tell you guys, you definitely gave them a scare in the 4th quarter. First of all, I want to know, emotion-wise, how you doing, man? I'm going to start with you first, Mr. Manning.
What was the question again? I'm sorry.
How you doing after this loss? Like, what is your mental state right now?
Yeah, mental state is I think it's a learning curve. We gotta take notes. It's the first season with the team, and kind of getting the kinks out, trying to figure out what works and what doesn't for us, and regroup. Go back to the drawing board and kind of try to fix where we can.
Definitely. DJ?
Yeah, man. Like you said, every loss you're gonna learn something. Whether it's how to handle certain offenses people run, how to work against certain defenses. You know what I mean? And if anyone's going to teach you something, it's going to be one of the best teams in the league. So, like you said, I mean, you're going to have to learn, especially in losses like this.
I alluded to the fact that you guys did started to make a comeback, 7 minutes and 11 seconds in the 4th quarter. And that interception by
Mickey Robinson.
Oh my God.
Yeah, Ricky. Yeah, Ricky Robinson.
It was funny. It was funny because right before that play happened, I was explaining to my daughter, hey, they got a chance. It's 7 minutes left. They're going to have to steal and score each time, steal and score, find a way to
Hmm.
steal it. And as soon as I said it, Mickey comes through, boom, and scored. I was like, okay. And so we're sitting back, we're watching, and then we see the time dwindling down. We see missed opportunities, and we're like, oh man, But that was a definite chance for you to get back in there. But honorable mentions tonight: T the Queen shined beautifully. Even Meliodas, you had 6 tackles, 1 assist, and 2 sacks of your own. So it's not like you guys are not there trying.
Hmm.
Hmm. Yeah, I gotta give it to the offense though. So the offense, regardless of the outcome, looked a hell of a lot better
Man.
this week than we have in previous weeks. Give that a Ty and Mike, kind of just like figuring out their books and figuring out what worked for them. I think we had more conversions on first down for another first down this game than we've had probably all season. So we're heading in the right direction. I just think we just like I said again, we got to fine tune it. I think keeping it to keeping it as close as we did against one of the best teams in the league, you can't say that wasn't for nothing.
Indeed. Anything to add, DJ?
But yeah, I mean, yeah, like you said, our offense played tremendously. We had more first downs than they did, more total yards than they did, more yards per attempt than they did. It's just the little things, you know what I mean? I think one play that really was just a heartbreaker. We fumbled on the kickoff, and then we had a fumble on our second punt return that really it was just a punch to the face. It gave it, on a silver platter
Yeah.
right near the end zone. It was just tough.
I was going to mention that. I think, I was going to ask you, what do you think some learning points from this game were specifically? Looking at the numbers, though, for Chicago, you did have 363 passing yards, only 14 yards rushing, though, for 377 total yards with 3 turnovers, 2 of which you explained with the fumbles. And Albuquerque had 224 yards passing, 124 yards rushing for 348 total, 1 turnover. So, in my opinion, I'm thinking that the turnover bug and the ground game not being effective this week for you guys,
Yeah.
I think that was probably some things to work on. But what, from your perspective, what do you think?
Our run game is kind of it's been a struggle all season. I mean, we just haven't got it going in the run game at all. I mean, everybody knows it. We're a five wide squad. We're gonna throw the ball, and we're gonna do it good when we can convert, and if we can't, it's gonna be a struggle. Uh, you know, just maybe try a few different concepts, and I know they do, but we have a pass first mentality in Chicago. Like I said, everybody knows that, but definitely getting it a little bit more involved would probably be for the best.
Yeah, and the turnover points were the biggest thing, right? So they scored twice off of 2 turnovers. I mean, had 13 points off of turnovers. I mean, if you take those away, it's a completely different ball game, right? So I think that that's one of the biggest opportunities that we can look at is making sure we're not turning over. Run game, still got to work on it. Still not there right now. And but I think it's something that we are probably gonna tread heavily on in the off season.
Mhm.
We'll see.
Got it. So currently, you guys are you guys are now 2-8, and I'm wondering, how do you keep the team morale up at this point? Playoff time is around the corner. You know the likelihood of you being in the playoffs is pretty minuscule at this point. So, how do you still finish out the season with your heads held high and you strong? Like, what are you guys telling each other in the locker room?
Well, I know for a fact that win or lose, like I'm here to have fun and, make this a good experience for everybody. Some people, like, don't get me wrong, I want to win, right? Like everyone, no one wants to lose, but there's one thing that you can never learn from, and that is like, having everything right. So taking a losing season is an opportunity to grow and learn, and making sure that you address the things that didn't work in the previous season to what will work in the next season. And just telling everybody to hang in there, and make sure everyone's on top of their own progressions and stuff like that, making sure they're hitting the gym. And we always in the locker room, we're always still very we communicate a lot. Even though it's a losing season, I'm in the chat every single game with DJ and Mike and the team, and we're watching the game, we're shooting the stuff, and having fun.
Yeah.
Got it. DJ, anything to add to that before we close?
I mean, he said it perfect. You can't be willing to grow if you can't accept failure. That's just all there is to it.
Yep.
Wise words. I wish you guys the best of luck for the rest of the season, but going back to the drawing board and coming out next season even stronger and better, working it out during the off season, and keeping that team camaraderie is going to be something that you guys will need to continue to do. I wish y'all the best, and I'll be seeing you soon.
Thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
Anytime. Yeah, have a good one. Back to you in the booth.
Thank you, Ashley. And let's go straight back to the highlights here. Florida at Fort Worth. This was a 4th and inches early on in the game in the first quarter. And, hey, Florida's 4-4. They got everything to play for. Why not go get it? And on the later in the drive, Bullet Boletsky scores the touchdown. He had one of his better days in a long time. 3rd and goal from the 1. And Jay-Z Bacon says, I'm going to get mine too. Tie game at 7 with 7:58 to go in the second quarter. Then things got just a little crazy. Ron Cochran in the red zone, fires and throws a pick. It's brought out of the end zone to the 2-yard line. Maybe not the wisest thing. I think Ben Stone got a little bit too excited. 27 yards later, Eric Price fires and is picked off by Andrew Francis. So back come the Florida Storm. They would get a field goal out of that drive. 10-7, 4th and 1, Fort Worth. Hey, we can go for it too. Jay-Z Bacon just barely across the line. And the drive continues. Stephen Hacker, how many times did you see that ball overthrown? Hacker, perfect toe tap in the end zone, makes it 14-10 towards the end of the third quarter. Then Ron Cochran is picked again. You can't cover better than that from Adam Leach, Mike.
Yeah, that was great coverage right there, but ill-advised pass from Cochran, and it comes back for a pick six. Huge play in this ball game at this particular time.
Ron Cochran threw 5 interceptions in this one. Handoff to Bullet Boletsky. Great blocking. It was Boletsky's longest run of the season. It was more yards in a game than he's had in almost a year. Chris Komisak puts Florida in the end zone, 21-17. The Storm are not done yet. 21-20. Price picked off by Evan Carroll. Oh, boy, here we go. Florida is in business. They only get a field goal out of it. The first play of the drive, Henry McGee for 80. I remember when Henry McGee was doing this in the minors. Look at how far he's come in the majors.
Yeah, huge play right here, Cam. Florida, we're looking to close this game out. Henry McGee doing what he does, has done, like you mentioned, for many seasons in the minor leagues, and come through with a huge touchdown catch and gives Florida the victory.
And Stone gets another pick in the end zone to seal it. Yeah, listen, I can't believe again, we wait for teams like Florida to come around, and we think they're gonna. This is one of those games where we think they're gonna come around, and this is one of those games where Fort Worth can't take the next step. But that's not the way this game played out. Fort Worth answered the bell time and time again. They got up off the mat after Florida punched them around a couple of times in the fourth quarter and took the lead. They could have just lied down. They did not, and Fort Worth gets the win. Florida at 4-5. They've got Arizona next week on Monday. That is their last stand, Mike. They have to win that game. They have to win out. The division is gone. Carolina has won that. More on that later. But a huge game coming up for Florida. They're not dead yet, but they're on life support after Fort Worth was able to get that win.
Yeah, the surprising part to this game, Cam, were the 5 interceptions. That's just something that we're not accustomed to seeing from the Florida Storm. And I can recall a few seasons ago, Florida, they would always start slow, and they would seemingly pick up momentum and figure things out as the season goes on. But that is not happening here in season 24. As you mentioned, it's going to be the last stand really for possibly Arizona and Florida next week. So it's going to be an interesting matchup. Great matchup. Both teams have obviously had problems with the turnover bug, and we're going to see how that one plays out. But man, two perennial powers. One may be eliminated after next week.
I'm gonna say something that feels wrong, but honestly, it feels right. Remember when Fort Worth went 12-0? They were undefeated, and they got all the way to the semifinals, and they lost, I think, to Baltimore. And we were all, singing Fort Worth's praises, but we were wondering when that shoe was going to drop for Fort Worth because they had never been there before. I kind of think this team is better than that team. And I know that's weird to say, but they have lost a lot of really close games, heartbreakers, against good teams. They might be the sleeping giant in this playoff bracket. I wouldn't want to play them in the first round, that's for sure. I mean, anytime you can beat Florida, I know they're not as good as they've been in years past, but that's a hard game to win. In Week 12 against Florida, that I can count on one hand how many times that's happened.
Yeah, this Fort Worth team, they've always been solid, as you mentioned. But one thing I do like about them is that secondary. They have always been ball hawks. They know how to lock you down defensively, and that's been one of the keys to this season. They've played well. I think Jet Zero has been a huge addition to this team, and they. Like as you mentioned, they tend to stay in ball games, but they don't tend to beat themselves, and that's one of the biggest things in this league. Do not turn it over. Do not throw interceptions. Do not fumble the ball. Turn it in and give opposition and extra opportunities. And Fort Worth, that's what they are known for, and they are definitely going to be there in the end. And no, I would not want to face this team early in the playoffs, any earlier than what I would have to. I would put it like that.
And they may have found the heir apparent to Stephen Hacker finally in Henry McGee, because you have 200 yards against Florida. You're doing something right. All right, let's go to Denver and Charleston, where the Denver Nightwings had all the momentum in the world coming off of that big win against Minnesota, and then Minnesota dropped another game last week, and Denver was a full game ahead, or 2 full games ahead, I should say, and this looked in the bag. But Ian Francis and the Charleston Predators showed up. That was Trellis Blanton's worst pass of the season. That might have been everyone's worst pass of the season. I mean, he just threw it right to Brandon Ewing, 14-0 right out of the gates for the Predators. They have a big-time lead. I don't know what else to say about that pass, Mike, but it was pretty bad. Trellis Blanton, though, he bounced back, finds Logan Keel, who didn't score the touchdown but got him in great position here.
Yeah, that interception was definitely head-scratcher, but Blanton, answered the call with a couple of huge passes, and we see a touchdown by Keel on that second reception.
In the third, Denver started to put things together, but they couldn't get a hand, not even a finger, on Nick Hoagland, 27-10, and this is when we knew it wasn't Denver's day. Logan Keel off to the races, about to go for the score, and it's punched out from behind. The Charleston Predators get the win, 27-17. Denver got a late touchdown, but it was too little too late. The Denver Nightwings didn't play a bad game, but I seemed like they laid a bit of a stinker, because it was almost like they were coming down off the high from the past couple of weeks when they were really impressive. Charleston was one of those teams eliminated at the bottom of the standings that can sneak up on you and steal a win this time of year, and that's exactly what they did.
Yeah, and what did not help, they kind of started off this game behind the 8 ball, going down 14-0 early in this game, and then what we're accustomed to seeing Denver do, we see them pound the rock, control the clock, not turn it over, and kind of grind out wins that way. But once they got behind, we saw them having to pass a lot, and probably that was the difference in this game. And between winning and losing for the Night Wings, they're going to have to get back to playing Night Wing type of ball if they want to close out that Central Division, because Minnesota's in a huge game tonight to want to stay on these guys' heels.
Week 12 spectaculars, Mike. What you got for us?
Man, and it was some spectacular stuff this weekend, particularly from OKC. Man, I got to give them their props. Stephen McMichael, 212 yards receiving, a couple of touchdowns. Shooby Dooby Doo. He had a couple of interceptions in this game as well. Who else we got here? Sam Harrison for DC had 3 touchdowns. Kevin Say, he had 226 yards rushing and a touchdown. But we're going to go back to OKC. Colin Pierce, Cam, 377 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. He's the spectacular of the week. And, man, who wore it best? We mentioned DC. DC, we never know what DC is going to come out in, but they had a nice set this weekend. They wore it well, they played well, and they won the ball game.
Queen City was another one of those teams that was coming off a high, and they crashed pretty hard as DC flexed their muscles on them. 199 super chat from Jay Ballmer. Sucks these Texas teams won. Jay doesn't like Texas teams, but listen, Mike,
bless his heart.
It's Jadooby Doo, not Shadooby. It's Jadooby. Jadooby Doo.
I like saying shooby dooby doo. Exchanging glances, strangers in the night.
Hey, I'm not gonna step on your toes. That was more on key than I've ever been. So I'll give it to you. And hey, Mike Daggs likes it too. And as long as Mike Daggs likes it, it's okay, right? All right, let's get to the playoff picture. We got 11 minutes to kick off here. Here is your updated look at the standings, although that is not the right graphic, even though I tested it out before the games or before the show started. All right, there you go. There's the updated graphic. Albuquerque is number 1 now. They're the only team at the top that played. All the rest of them had a bye, but Albuquerque took care of business. Houston has moved into the 6th spot. A lot of teams with a lot of different records and a lot of different schedules remaining with byes and such. Mexico City's the last to play 9 games. But you can see there's 5 teams in the top 9 in the South. Carolina has won the East Division. They are your first team to officially clinch a playoff spot. They would be your 8th seed at this point. How about Carolina Fort Worth in an 8-9 rematch from the Monday Night Spectacular when Carolina beat them at the buzzer? That would be incredible. Minnesota hanging on to the division. Remember, Denver hanging on to the division. Minnesota is now your 12 seed. They play tonight against Arizona in the nightcap. That is a huge game for the Minnesota Legend to try to hang on. If they lose, Queen City is back into the picture after another blowout loss, their 3rd of the season for the Corsairs. They have slipped to 13. Lexington and, again, D.C. back in the mix at 15, but they got a lot of work to do. Your thoughts on where things stand now, Mike?
And Cam, it's just more just matchups after matchup that are going to be pretty much classic come playoff time. But one that stands out to me just from a Houston point of view would be 6-11 at this point. Houston would be at home, but the way Sin City have been playing the past few weeks, when we were talking about who you don't want to meet, I would not want to match up with Sin City again, especially that early in the playoffs. If I didn't have to, if I had my druthers, I don't know what druthers are, but if I had them, I wouldn't want to play Sin City. But then I see that as we mentioned, Albuquerque, they're going to have a tough road to try to hang on to that one spot. In the last couple of games, Mexico City, they're sitting there at 5. Houston right behind them at 6. Houston holds a head-to-head tiebreaker over them. Washington up there at number 4 has a head-to-head over Houston. I mean, this is going to get crazy towards the end, Cam. Fort Worth has a head-to-head over Houston. If they were to tie, man, this is going to be a great last couple of weeks, and this playoff picture is definitely going to change before we get to the finish line.
And Fort Worth tonight cheering hard for Vancouver, because if Mexico City slips up, that's one less team that Fort Worth has to potentially contend with for a title if they all get into some sort of 8-4 jam. Of course, if Houston wins out and Albuquerque slips up, then you could end up in a 3-way tie with somebody else that you've beaten. All sorts of things that could happen down the stretch in that division. Houston beat Sin City pretty good earlier this season, and that would be a 6-11 matchup. The 5-12 Mexico City, Minnesota, that would be a rematch of last season's semifinal. It just happening in the first round. Look, Minnesota's on a 2-game losing streak, but somehow they have managed to hang on to a playoff spot, and tonight could get back in a tie with Denver, and all they would need is a win and a Denver loss in the last 2 games, and they would be your Central Division champs, even though it looked like it was a done deal for Denver to get that win. Of course, Vancouver and Mexico City coming up tonight. Arizona, Minnesota coming up tonight. Arizona's not on the graphic, but they're right there. They're 4-4. If they win tonight, they'll have the same record as Minnesota, so they really will be in the thick of the playoff hunt. And this is the best time of year, Mike. This is intense. There's a lot of great matchups. And, hey, next week, Baltimore takes on Mexico City. That's a big game. Bossier City faces Vancouver. Houston faces Denver. There's a lot of great matchups just on the slate next week. And even a team like Washington, they're just waiting to pounce. They host Los Angeles next week, so they should be able to take care of business there.
Yeah, Washington, they're kind of in the catbird seat right now, as you mentioned. No disrespect to LA, but man, that's going to be probably a Washington win, and that's going to get them to 8 wins, and that makes this game tonight even bigger for us from the Vancouver point of view. If they can get to 8 wins tonight, that would keep them on pace with Washington. But man, there's a lot of heavyweight matchups coming up, and I can't wait to see them, and I look forward to seeing how this thing plays out.
Ron Haynes has a special treat for everyone tonight that's playing. He's got breakdowns of everybody's season. We're going to try to hit all of the top performers, but everybody gets an opportunity on the screen, and we love that. Let's start with our first game tonight, Vancouver, Mexico City. This is the first whoa, that's not right. There we go. This is the first meeting in Mexico City since the season 19 quarterfinals. It's been a long time since Vancouver's been here. We start with the quarterbacks. Christian Brown has been electrifying. He's probably outplayed Jordan Sipe to this season, but Sipe has been holding his own. On the ground, look, Mateo Privado, he's a star. 569 yards, always a threat.
Yeah, he's definitely been a star for this team, Cam. But then you look on the other side, Ray Bentley, he's had an incredible season. He's been around forever, it seems like, but he's bounced back and have a great season this season for Mexico City.
Brett Killian finally having the season that he would love to have. John Osiris on the other side of things for Mexico City. A little bit behind Josh Farnsey in the numbers, but is holding it down in the middle. Jeffrey Daggs, 63 tackles at safety. He is everywhere. Always a problem.
Jeffrey Daggs, the Hall of Famer, is always a problem in that secondary. If you're going to put the ball in the air, Jeffrey Daggs is going to definitely be a threat to pick it off.
6 sacks for Gerald Giudice. Leads the line up front for Vancouver. The Mexico City Aztecs don't have a ton of sacks up front, but they're disruptors, especially Evan Miller.
Yeah, they definitely disruptors, Cam. I was actually surprised to see that stat with, very few sacks for the Mexico City defensive line, but they're going to disrupt you. They're going to cause havoc. And then John Fowler, he's been great over the past couple of seasons. He's there in that front 7 as well to help create havoc.
How about our second game tonight, the Arizona Scorpions, Minnesota Legend. This game, it's not the sexiest matchup on paper in terms of, the top of the standings, but it means so much to both these teams. Look how even these quarterbacks have been this season, nearly the same average of passing yards per game. And then we get to Colin Hart, who, come on, man. He's a Hall of Famer, right? 2025?
Definitely a Hall of Famer, Cam. 725 yards, second in the league with 80 yards rushing per game, and he's been a huge reason why the Minnesota legend are competing for this Central Division.
Jay Taylor, a quiet 726 yards, but he's having a really nice season. Matthew Alvarado is a freak, man. 25 TFLs. I mean, on paper, it looks like Minnesota should win this game, but they just have not been playing their best ball. Bernard Smith has 56 tackles, 3 passes defended.
Yeah, Bernard Smith has been around a long time, and he's proven his worth in that defensive backfield.
7 sacks for Hunter Norwood up front, holding down the defensive front for Arizona. On the flip side, this is one of the nastiest defensive lines in the league. Meerkat, 9 sacks. Mark Mello, 9 sacks. Max Knight, 5 sacks. It might be the best unit on the field tonight in that game.
You want sacks, Cam? There they are. Mark Mello, Max Knight. These guys are just beast up front, and it's going to be tough task for Arizona to keep Ashley Jackson clean. But that's what they're going to have to do tonight if they want to hope to come out with a victory.
We got a great Monday night spectacular doubleheader on hand for you here in Week 12. Mike St. Green, all that's left with a couple minutes to go is for you to give your picks. Who you got?
Well, this pick, Cam, that really does, Houston any good for me to make this pick, but I got to keep it real. I think Mexico City at home, defending champs, I think they're gonna take care of business tonight. We may see some fireworks. We know Vancouver can move the ball. We're gonna see something like maybe 31-27, 27-24 Mexico City.
And then how about Arizona and Minnesota?
Minnesota has lost a couple of home games. They're at home again tonight. Arizona, they've been struggling in the red zone and with turnovers. We just saw how great that defensive line is of Minnesota. It kind of pains me to pick against Arizona because, great organization, great people over there. But I think Minnesota's going to win a tough, tight one tonight, Cam, 17-13.
Is there any amount of coffee that's going to help you stay up for Arizona, Minnesota in the nightcap tonight?
No, because I'm not going to drink any because I can get up at 3 a.m. But so no, I don't know if I'm going to quite make that one. But we're going to put in a Herculean effort to try to see as much as we can. But we're going to definitely tune in for the Mexico City Vancouver ball game.
You're going to be singing "Shadooby Dooby Doo" in your dreams. You're a terrible co-host. No, you're great, Mike. I know that you're an old man. You got to get your sleep. All that 3 a.m. work stuff, I don't believe you. I think it's just a cover. You're getting old.
I have to, cover that I'm doing something in real life.
Don't we all, right? Except for me, I guess. All right, we're counting down. Mexico City, Vancouver's coming up next. For Mike St. Green, I'm Cameron Irvine. This has been SFL This Week, and we'll see you next week right here on VFN.